600 lawyers and academics have signed a letter warning Rishi Sunak that the UK risks breaching international law by continuing to arm Israel. The Prime Minister has come under pressure to act after 7 international aid workers, including 3 British citizens, were killed by an Israeli airstrike in Gaza on Monday. Still with us is Ben Habib. Ben, all these judges, you know, I note they're led by that. Do you remember the one with the spider badge, Brenda Hale, left-winger, all that? They've said that Britain is in danger of breaking international law here. I don't know what they're on about, really. What they're talking about is that it has been ruled by the International Court of Justice that there's a possibility that genocide could be being committed. And if that was the case, Britain supplying Israel with arms would mean that we are contributing to the genocide. But the genocide has not been proved. So this is just lefties sort of talking into the abyss, isn't it?
I mean, you absolutely hit the nail on the head. South Africa brought a case against Israel in the international court, claiming that it was committing a genocide, and the international court ruled that South Africa had a plausible case, but there wasn't sufficient evidence to conclude that a genocide was taking place. It did warn Israel against the possibility of a genocide unfolding in due course and to take preventative measures and so on in accordance with international law, but there was no adjudication against Israel. And the left and those who wish to support the Palestinian cause in Gaza do big up the fact that the court said that South Africa had a plausible case, but that doesn't equate to adjudicating against Israel. And these lawyers who've now warned the United Kingdom against supplying arms to Israel, which, by the way, you know, we're a small supplier of arms to Israel. The big supplier of arms to Israel is the United States of America. But these lawyers claiming that we would ourselves be in breach of international human rights if we were to do it, aiding and abetting a genocide. Well, it's just wrong, because that's not the position we're in from an international legal position at the moment.
If it was a fact, if it had been proved and established and accepted that genocide is being committed in Gaza, then yes, by us supplying arms to Israel, we're contributing to that. That is potentially against international law. But it has not been established that genocide is happening there. It has not been established that Israel is committing any war crimes. So this is just a bunch of virtue signalling bewigged luminaries telling us how great they are, isn't it?
Hold on, Ben, before you answer that, Ben, before you answer that, let me just jump in. 30,000 estimated dead, kids dying of starvation, almost 200 other aid workers killed. Now we've lost 3 British aid workers. Now the West is now saying perhaps Israel are going too far. The numbers speak for themselves. Whether or not it's been proven that Israel has committed genocide or not, clearly this has been a reckless attack from the Israeli government for the past few months.
No, it hasn't.
Yes, it has.
So why do you say that?
Let's have Ben answer.
So I think Israel is beginning, in my view, JJ, Kevin, you may be surprised about what I'm going to say. I think Israel is on the edge of beginning to get it wrong, if it hasn't already got it wrong. It's losing the support of it's losing international support. It's losing the support of the United States. And Netanyahu is beginning to lose support in Israel. And whilst the continued bombardment of Gaza does look like he's taking resolute, firm action to destroy Hamas and get the hostages released, assuming they're still alive, which in all probability they aren't, actually, I think Israel needs to move to a new phase in this war, one of containment rather than bombardment, one of holding Gaza in check, allowing humanitarian aid in, and taking another line of attack, which we began to see a couple of days ago when Israel hit Damascus and killed some senior Iranian military officers. And I think that was a very sensible move by Israel, because what's been lost in the entire Gaza-Israel war is that it's Iran that is the prime mover and supporter of Hamas. And it's Iran that needs to be challenged. And those people who say, well, Ben, if you challenge Iran, you're going to have a regional war. What I say to them is, we already have a regional war. We've had a regional war actually in that region between Saudi and Iran for the last few decades, where they've been vying for supremacy in the Middle East. We've had a proxy war in Libya, in Syria, in Yemen, which is still unfolding, a very bloody war in Yemen. And Iran needs to be taken to task. And one of the things that I think we've got very wrong in the US and the UK is turning a blind eye to Qatar, because Qatar is where Hamas's leadership sits. And Qatar has become a home for Iranian money. And it is through Qatar that Iran is able to influence matters in the region. And we need to have a very robust discussion with the leaders of Qatar, making it clear to them that we will not tolerate their continued succor that they give Hamas and Iran. And if Qatar doesn't mend its ways, we should be imposing sanctions on Qatar and cutting off Hamas's funding at its legs. And I think, therefore, the Israeli policy now should be containment in Gaza, humanitarian aid allowed in. They're never going to completely eliminate Hamas. And even if they were to eliminate Hamas, the kind of destruction to which JJ was referencing will result in new terror groups forming. Yeah. So contain Hamas in Gaza and cut it off at its legs through Qatar and Iran. The trouble with that,
Ben, is that Netanyahu has vowed and made it very public that he intends to destroy Hamas. And until Netanyahu gets to a point where he can at least convince himself that he's destroyed Hamas, this isn't going to stop. And in terms of genocide, of course, it's horrific that 30,000 innocent people have died in Gaza, but genocide is an official legal status that has not been established. Sure. So these lefty lawyers and judges here in Britain saying, you're breaking international law, well, you're not.